Hey parents, thanks for tuning in to the Parent Guide, helping your teen overcome pornography addiction. And I know that so many of you have tried the heart-to-heart talks, you've tried installing every filter and every app, and you've sat in therapy sessions wondering, well, why can't they just stop? The shame, the secrecy, the relapses, it feels like you're fighting a war that you're losing. And parents often ask, well, what is the most important intervention for helping teens overcome pornography addiction? And my answer is always, well, it's all important. We have to throw every intervention at it because it is a tough addiction to break. And I'm talking about psychological intervention. I'm talking about spiritual intervention, talking about physical exercise, social connection, accountability, emotional development, and would you even believe nutrition? But what if the real battlefield isn't only in their prefrontal cortex, but it's also in their gut? What if the junk food in their backpack is actually quietly hijacking their dopamine, spiking anxiety, and making porn feel like the only escape? Today on the Parent Guide, we are diving into the gut-brain axis, the hidden superhighway connecting your teen's lunchbox straight to their ability to resist urges. This isn't woo-woo. This is cutting-edge science that's already helping many families that I work with break this cycle. I'm Matt Bulkley, psychotherapist, and your guide through this. Stick with me. You're about to learn exactly how diet is sabotaging recovery from pornography addiction and the simple improved swaps that can turn things around. Parents, you've got this. Let's jump in. First, let's name what is really happening here. Your teen's brain is still under construction, especially the prefrontal cortex, that part that handles impulse control and long-term thinking. And pornography, they view pornography, it floods their reward system with dopamine hits that feel impossible to ignore. But here's what almost nobody talks about. The diet, their diet is making that battle 10 times harder. So meet the gut-brain axis, and this potentially becomes your teen's secret weapon or their silent saboteur. Inside their intestines live trillions of microbes, more than the stars in our galaxy. We call this the microbiome, or some people are referring to it as the second brain. These tiny organisms produce or influence about 95% of the body's serotonin, which is that neurochemical that stabilizes mood and reins in impulses. And they also regulate dopamine, which is that very reward chemical that porn hijacks. And the GABA, the brain's natural brake on anxiety, signals race up the vagus nerve like a superhighway from their gut to their brain. Plus, microbial byproducts travel through the bloodstream. And when the microbiome is balanced, it sends calm, focused messages. You've got this. But when it's wrecked by junk food, then it's chaos, it's emotional storms, it's brain fog, it's cravings that make saying no to porn feel like climbing Mount Everest. And I've seen this in my office hundreds of times over the years. Teen moodiness turns into full-blown dysregulation because the gut is undermining their willpower. Adolescence is when the brain rewires at lightning speed, and add a damaged microbiome and the urges become overwhelming. Well, let's ground this in real science. So you know I'm not just sharing opinions here. A study in 2022 published in the journal Nutrients followed Spanish adolescents and found that higher ultra-processed food intake was strongly linked to more depressive symptoms, internalizing problems, and externalizing behaviors, especially in boys. So the more junk they ate, the worse their emotional regulation. In another 2026 review in Nutrients analyzed multiple studies on children and teens and confirmed the same pattern. High ultra-processed food consumption consistently tied to higher anxiety, depression, sleep issues, and irritability. One of the studies of adolescent girls showed those in the highest ultra-processed food group had nearly 3.7 times the odds of depression compared to the lowest group. So now the connection to addiction. Research on the microbiome, that gut-brain axis, and this was a study an addiction on substance use disorders, which shares the same dopamine reward pathways as pornography addiction, Well, it showed dysbiosis directly disrupts impulse control. And studies in Frontiers in Neuroscience and other journals also demonstrate that when gut bacteria are out of balance, dopamine and serotonin signaling goes haywire. Exactly what makes porn cravings harder to resist. So the leaky gut that comes from junk food triggers body-wide inflammation that travels straight to the brain, amplifying anxiety and brain fog. So bottom line from the data, poor diet isn't just teen stuff. It is actually biochemistry actively working against your teen's recovery. So I know that this is new stuff. Like, we have not in the past made a strong connection between diet and gut health versus neurochemistry and brain health, but it's here. This is the cutting edge studies. Let me make this concrete with just a few stories from families that I've worked with. Names changed, of course, for privacy. But first, let's talk about Ethan, age 15. Came into therapy, started doing treatment, and his mom described him is a good kid, but he just can't stop using porn. And as we delved into assessment and creation of a treatment plan, the discovery of his using daily energy drinks, eating chips, a lot of fast food. His backpack was a junk food zone. So he'd finish therapy sessions motivated, but then end up relapsing by bedtime. And as we analyzed his patterns and as his parents did observation, his anxiety skyrocketed after snacks. Focus was non-existent. And so we tested this gut-brain theory and started making some tweaks. Had parents started switching up breakfast to overnight oats and Greek yogurt and berries, and then after-school snacks, maybe a kefir smoothie. And parents started to put in place the different variations of tacos, salmon tacos, a couple times per week. And within about 4 weeks, his mom let me know he's starting to finish homework without fighting me. And this is the first time in months that we've had an entire week without a relapse into porn. So his gut bugs got the fuel that they needed. And this led to serotonin stabilizing and dopamine cravings being eased. Next scenario, call him Michael, age 17. He had hid his porn use for quite some time behind perfectionism and anxiety attacks. And as we delved into an assessment and a creation of a treatment plan, discovered that he was using a lot of sugary sodas and processed snacks. It's kind of his main source of fuel through the day. And then he would crash hard, have some significant mood swings that made his urges for seeking out pornography irresistible. So working together with his parents and on tweaking a diet, had them add some prebiotic foods, things like apples and oats. You started to use garlic in some of their meal prep and omega-3s from walnuts. And they also started we call it the build your own taco bar a couple nights per week. Started to use some kimchi on the side. And again, within probably 4 to 6 weeks, he himself shared with me in session something to the effect of, well, I feel like my brain finally starting to have breaks, meaning that he was able to stop himself and develop some level of self-discipline that he was not experiencing previously. And his anxiety dropped, and he's using some other interventions. So he started using some breathing techniques that we paired with the diet changes. And he started staying clean for his longest streaks of abstinence of pornography to date. Parents, they're not miracles, but they are biochemistry. When the gut calms, the brain follows. So what's the culprit? Well, the usual suspects in every teen's backpack. It's the ultra-processed foods, the sugary drinks, it's the energy drinks, it's frequent fast food, it's the chips, the potato chips loaded with the inflammatory seed oils. And these feed the bad bacteria. They kill the good ones, and they crash that microbiome diversity. And the gut lining becomes leaky, and these toxins slip into the blood, and they spark that inflammation that heads straight to the brain. And the result is spike in anxiety. It's more anxiety after snacks. It's that ADHD-like brain fog. It's the emotional eating, and it's the use of pornography as the quickest fix. And parents, teens are extra vulnerable because their microbiome is still maturing alongside their brain. So then that double hit explains why things like filters or apps alone are often failing. It's because biology is fighting you. So parents, here is the game changer in all this. You can literally feed their recovery. I want you to take note here, focus on 3 different pillars of how it is that you will start to shift the nutrition in all this. So number 1 would be to implement some of the prebiotics. So this would be fiber that the good bacteria love. And this is where you are going to start to use garlic and onions in some of the cooking that you do, some of the meal prep. Add bananas and oats, apples and beans into their daily diet. Number 2 would be the probiotics. So live good bacteria. And this is great source of that is going to be the plain Greek yogurt or kefir, sauerkraut or kimchi. And those ones are a little bit harder to implement than the prebiotics, but you got to do it. And then number 3, these we'll call it the anti-inflammatory heroes. So this would be the omega-3s. So this would be like salmon, walnuts, berries, dark chocolate, leafy greens, spinach. And those can be a little harder to implement as well, harder than the prebiotics, but maybe not as hard as the probiotics. But those are your 3 pillars, parents. And here's the thing, make it teen friendly. No-nag swaps that actually work. So as I already covered here, tested this with many families over the last year or 2. Breakfast, a great bet there is the overnight oats with some Greek yogurt, along with berries and walnuts, and it actually can taste somewhat like a dessert. The after school snack, be a berry-kefir smoothie and maybe blended with the banana, maybe some protein powder, and it actually tastes really good. They won't suspect a thing. It actually tastes like ice cream if you do it right. And then dinner, as I mentioned, the build your own tacos is always a great option with extra veggies and avocado and salmon. Make it the fish taco. That is a great way to get all 3 pillars. And maybe for a craving buster or later in the evening snack, you go with a square of 70% dark chocolate with handfuls of berries. And, one mom had recently told me that her son had gone from daily meltdowns to finishing homework without reminders after multiple weeks with some of these tweaks to diet and nutrition. And because she made it teen friendly and tasty, he didn't even notice the changes at first. So along with this, parents, the nutrition, the diet is important, but layer it in supporting players, things like 8 to 10 hours of sleep, daily exercise. They got to get out. They got to get their blood flowing. They need to get the natural endorphins, whether it's sport, working out, running, biking, walking the dog together. You got to get them out and moving. And then, things like 2-minute box breathing, 4 seconds in and hold for 4 and then out for 4. And all of these things strengthen that vagus nerve and amplify the gut-brain benefits. Well, research on prebiotic-rich diets shows measurable drops in anxiety and mood disturbance within weeks. So got the research showing that, and anecdotally, I've got parents telling me that. So, and this is exactly what your teen would need to begin to develop stronger impulse control. Well, parents, you might be asking, well, what now? So 4 simple moves. Number 1 would just be this: to lead quietly as the adult, as the parent. Stock the fridge and you eat the same foods yourself. Number 2, give them some ownership. Let them pick maybe a new recipe each week. Let them decide on some of the variations of smoothie protein mixes or shakes that you can make. Number 3, watch for red flags, particularly things like bloating or sugar crashes, mood swings after junk, or digestive complaints. And when in doubt, or if there are complications, then make sure to team up with a functional medicine doctor or a dietitian who gets teen mental health, and talk to your teen with science. Say, hey, you know what? These gut bugs are like your personal focus squad, and you feed them right, and they're going to help you stay strong. So in other words, you're not just changing their plate, you're giving them lifelong tools for emotional regulation and real freedom from this terrible addiction. If you're looking for some really solid evidence-based program to go along with all this that you and your teen can actually do together at home, I highly recommend the Recovery Toolbox for Teens. It's a complete package, trio of 3 powerful tools. The Breaking Free Workbook, which walks your teen through a structured guided exercises to truly understand the addiction cycle and how to break it. Includes the Parent Guide, which is full of practical, no-nonsense advice on how to support your child without accidentally enabling them. And the 101 Tips for Quitting Porn. Super quick, actionable ideas like replace late night scrolls with calming bedtime ritual that actually make a difference. It is exactly what it says it is, literally 101 tips for quitting porn. So what makes this toolbox so effective is that it's designed for joint use. You and your teen sit down together, you go through the workbook prompts, have real conversations, and start rebuilding trust, accountability side by side. So, and you will want the teen version. So make sure that you grab the blue edition. It's in the bookstore at the therapyassociates.net website. It's the blue version. The brown version is the adult version. That's the one for adults, adult recovery. And parents, if things have gotten more serious, if you're dealing with safety issues, risky online behavior, sexual acting out, suicidality or self-harm, or just repeated treatment failures, or if you've just honestly lost all influence in your teen's life, then it's time for something that's much more intensive. And that's where Star Guides comes in. It is truly the ultimate intervention for when you need the reset button hard. Removes your teen from the toxic environment that's feeding the addiction and helps to rebuild healthy habits, healthy mindset, and behaviors from the ground up. And it's a powerful way to disrupt that destructive cycle, to give your teen and your whole family a real fresh start. Well, parents, you are not alone. Your teen's brain is incredibly resilient. Small dietary shifts can create massive momentum. So I hope this episode gave you hope and sparked some new ideas for how to intervene with nutrition and diet shifts. So I want you to identify today, what's one food swap that you're going to try this week? Parents, you've got this. Keep showing up with love and wisdom. Make sure to subscribe for weekly episodes, tips, strategies, guidance, and support in this journey. And thanks for tuning in today. I will see you in the next episode.